Worst DC live-action movie ever. Yes, this is a topic that is debated amongst many comic book fans, and that is the topic we are going to get into today. Because today, we are talking Batman vs. Superman, Dawn of Justice. Is it the worst superhero movie ever made, especially on the DC side? Well, let's take a look. But before we get into anything, guys, please, for me, like this video, subscribe to the page, hit that noti bell. Alright, Batman vs. Superman, Dawn of Justice. Now, this was the second film in the Snyderverse run. It was a sequel to Man of Steel. I think that's really important, because to have a Batman vs. Superman movie as the second movie in your universe is risky, for sure. Pitting these two characters against each other when we haven't seen Batman yet, we haven't seen Wonder Woman yet, and now we're just having these two characters thrust upon us. Man of Steel also didn't even include Lex Luthor, so he's someone else that is added to this film. And then you obviously have the ending with Doomsday. So these are multiple very large DC characters that are just all thrust into this movie. And I feel like it definitely suffers. This movie does have a longer runtime, which it definitely needs, but then you're also not spending enough time with the characters, developing the relationships, and then it just ends up falling flat. So, do I personally think this movie is the worst DC live-action movie? No. Do I understand why people think that? Yeah, absolutely. It has a ton of issues. Some of them are pretty major. However, overall, I do still enjoy the film. I think the concept of Batman vs. Superman is a really fun idea, and I actually don't even have that much of an issue with Ben Affleck's killing. I have issues with it, but it's not the fact that he kills. So that's actually one of the very first points I'm going to get into right now, is when Batman just carelessly murders people. Now, this is an experienced Batman, so he's been doing this 20, 25, maybe even 30 years by this point. And we see that he experienced the loss of a Robin. And we know that Zack Snyder did confirm that this wasn't Jason Todd. This was Dick Grayson. Arguably the Robin who Batman is most connected to, especially aside from Damian Wayne. And even then, it's still usually Dick Grayson. That is his Robin, the first Robin. The one that teaches him so much about being more than just a symbol of justice. He can be more than just the Batman. So to know that this version of Robin got killed by the Joker, and I don't know, again, that you could see why that makes Ben Affleck's Batman kind of spiral down that road of killing people. But my whole thing is, if you have Batman killing street level tier thugs that were just robbing something down at the docks where he's just running them over without any regard, why the hell is the Joker still alive? In Zack Snyder's Justice League, the Snyder Cut, we literally see the Joker and Batman's little interaction, and Harley died in his arms, and Batman saying, "I will effing kill you, definitely one day." It's like, why didn't you do it? Why haven't you done it? You're literally murdering C and D list character villains who are no-name thugs, and you are just running them down, mulling them over, having them go through explosions, all this stuff. But yet the person who arguably did so much worse things by this point, he's murdered tons of people, including your sidekick, one of your best friends, your companion, and he's still just alive? That never made sense to me, even when I was watching the movie. And then, especially upon rewatches, it's something that's more glaringly obvious, because obviously we see everything in the DCU, so we know that the Joker's still alive, and there's real no intention, except for years and years down the line, of Batman ending him. Why would he not end him right then and there? So that's probably my biggest issue with that movie, is having to grapple with the reality that, hey, this Batman murders people, but for whatever reason, the Joker's just alive. Which makes no sense, because in every iteration that he refuses to kill the Joker, it's literally because he says, if I do that, I won't stop. And Jason Todd even says he's not asking him to kill Two-Face or Penguin or anyone else, but Batman stops him in the movie Under the Red Hood and says, no, you don't understand. It wouldn't stop with Joker. I would end up killing every single person because then everything I stand for is gone. The thing that is stopping me from killing people is gone. Yeah, it would be for a monster, but if I can make that exception once, I'll do it for others. Whereas this movie does the opposite. It has him just murdering no-name thugs and then leaving the Clown Prince of Crime, the greatest villain arguably ever, out there just to do crazy stuff. So again, that's just something that I can't overlook. Again, I did enjoy a lot about this movie, but him not killing the Joker just makes a lot of this movie just absurd, honestly. And then we get into the Batman versus Superman fight was actually really cool. A lot of the fight scenes was awesome. That's one thing I will say about the Snyderverse. You're gonna get great fight scenes. That being said, the way it ended and Martha, I get what they were going for. I personally didn't like it because it did seem silly. However, I get what they were going for. So it didn't bother me a tremendous amount. That being said, I do understand why so many people have an issue with it and maybe make memes about it because it is at the end of the day kind of ridiculous. But I think it boils down to Batman realizing that Superman has humanity. And I think maybe that just wasn't echoed. Again, I think if the movie wasn't so rushed, it would have had more of a chance to resonate with the audience, and at least with me personally too. And then you can also introduce the moments with the other Justice League members in a more organic way rather than making it feel forced. To be totally honest, I think aside from the kill rule, the most egregious part of this movie is Lex Luthor. I don't know if it was acting choices or if it was written that way, but this did not feel like Lex Luthor at all, in the slightest. When he's putting a Jolly Rancher in that senator's mouth, I have to fast forward almost every time I watch it because I either burst out laughing or I just cringe so much it ruins the experience. That scene was horrible. And when he's on the rooftop with Superman and he's like, oh, da 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 da, but if you kill me, I'll do this. And that didn't seem like Lex Luthor at all. In fact, it seemed like the Riddler got dosed with Joker toxin. That was who this version of Lex Luthor reminded me of, was a mixture of the Riddler with the Joker. No part of him was like Lex Luthor at all. And I think that's one of, if not the worst thing about this movie, is that essentially your main villain or main antagonist doesn't represent the comic book character that he's playing at all. It's just horrible writing, horrible delivery, horrible all the way around. And again, I don't know if it was acting choices or if it was written, directed that way. I think it was more a writing issue, honestly, of how the character was written. Because I don't see him just going in there and just deciding to make a lot of those choices. I think if he was a more comic accurate Lex Luthor, the movie still wouldn't have been perfect. There would have been issues, but it wouldn't have been as egregious. And I think it would have been a lot more enjoyable for a lot more people. And then we get into the ending of the movie. I know we have Doomsday. Again, some of the pacing stuff with this movie is just kind of here and there. Killing off Jimmy Olsen in his first appearance was silly. Superman just standing there while the courtroom kind of blows up. And you could argue, oh, he couldn't get everyone out, but he could get some. And like, again, that's all stuff that you could overlook if these other major plot points and major character attributes were kind of, I don't want to say justified, but kind of represented in the proper way, right? I can forgive certain parts of a movie if the overall representation of the character is there. And for a lot of characters in this movie, it definitely was not. Doomsday was cool. He had, obviously, the action with him was really cool. You're not going to get much with Doomsday outside of awesome fights because he's just a big monster. But the way that they kind of created him and had him represented and showed what he can do was really awesome. I think it does then get into some more issues. This is the second movie in your universe. This is Superman's second movie, a sequel, and you're killing him off in the second movie. Again, this takes so much of the weight away. This takes so much of the emotion out of it because we've only had the character for 2 movies. And for part of this movie, Superman does seem kind of like a crazy person, Like when he's talking to Batman and threatening him, and when he stops the Batmobile, it's again, I feel like if you had more movies and it was more fleshed out, you would have more of an attachment with this character. And not only that, we know he's coming back because there's a Justice League movie. And we know you're not going to have a Justice League movie without Superman, especially if it's the first Justice League movie ever. Again, if they waited to do Death of Superman after they did maybe one, maybe two Justice League movies, okay, wow, Superman's dead. Like, are they going to keep him dead? Oh, surely he must come back in some point. There's at least more of a speculation versus it's a done guarantee that he's coming back. Because then all the weight, all any emotion that you could feel is just gone right away. So it's a wasted death. And again, it's similar to like Fantastic Four when Sue Storm, she comes back to life in the same movie. It takes away from it because in Justice League, as we saw, he's resurrected, so he's dead for literally half of a movie. That's it. Again, if this was more spaced out, maybe you have him dead for a couple movies. Maybe you have 4 or 5 releases that are centered around other DC characters, maybe even a Justice League film without Superman, and you feel the weight of that. And then you can see the desperation of the Justice League of why they need this character back, why Superman must return. But again, those are kind of my thoughts on it. That's why I feel the way I do about this movie. And again, as I said in the beginning, do I think this movie is the worst DC movie ever? No. Do I think it's the worst superhero movie ever? No. Do I think it's one of the worst? No. Do I find it enjoyable? Absolutely. Is it littered with issues? Absolutely. But I'd really love to know what all of you think down in the comments below. And while you guys are down there, please, for me, like this video, subscribe to the page, hit that noti bell. And until next time, I will see all of you Kryptonians in the next video. Goodbye.